Echo Chronicle 003, The Gates of Mirhold, the Dawnshard. Part 1. The City Beneath the Mist. The first thing the Druid heard was the ocean. Long before he saw the city, long before the great walls appeared beyond the hills, there was only the sound of waves crashing against stone, the distant cries of seabirds, and the deep voices of ancient harbour horns echoing through the morning mist. Myrhold, the harbour of 1,000 lights, that was what old maps called it, a city built where the land surrendered to the sea. Its towers rose from the cliffs like they had grown from the stone itself. Great bridges connected the upper districts, where merchants and nobles walked beneath banners of silver and blue. Far below them, hidden between canals, old stairways, and leaning wooden houses, were the lower districts. The Mistways, a place where the sun rarely touched the ground, a place of wet stone, old lanterns, narrow alleys, and people the city above had learned not to see. The Druid stopped before the enormous gates that protected the harbour entrance, the Gates of Mirhold. They were older than anyone in the city remembered. Two giants of stone and metal standing against the endless waves. Every ship that entered Myrhold passed beneath their shadow. Every sailor looked up and wondered who had built something so impossible. But few asked any more, because people often stop questioning things that have always been there. The Druid placed one hand against the cold stone. For a moment the world became quiet. There it was, faint, distant, an echo. But unlike others he had discovered before, this one felt unfinished, like a song waiting for its final note. The Druid looked toward the city. Somewhere beyond those streets, beyond the markets, the ships, and the countless voices of Myrhold, a story was beginning. He just did not know whose story it was yet. Far below the golden towers of Myrhold, where the fog rested between old rooftops and narrow bridges, someone was running, fast, silent, almost invisible. Tessa Vale jumped from one rooftop to another as bells rang behind her. "Stop!" A guard shouted somewhere below. "Thief!" Tessa smiled. People always shouted that word as if she did not already know. She landed on a balcony, climbed over a wall, and disappeared into a small alley before the guards even reached the street. By the time they arrived, there was nothing left. Only a single black feather lying on the stones, a calling card, the sign of the Mist Crows, the most annoying thieves in all of Myrhold, at least according to the city guards. Tessa would have called that a compliment. The hideout of the Mist Crows was hidden inside an abandoned clock tower overlooking the old harbour. Nobody repaired the tower anymore. Nobody visited it. Nobody even looked at it, which made it perfect. "You know," a voice said as Tessa climbed through the window, "one day you could try using the door." Calder sat at a table covered with tools, wires, broken machines, and several things that looked like they might explode if touched incorrectly. Tessa dropped a small bag onto the table. "And one day you could build something that actually works." Finn looked offended. "Everything I build works." A tiny mechanical bird beside him suddenly moved, made a terrible clicking sound, and fell over. Both of them looked at it. Finn cleared his throat. "Eventually." Tessa laughed. That was rare. Most people in Myrhold never heard her laugh. Most people never knew her at all. But Finn did. He had known her since they were children, back when the Mistways were not an adventure. They were survival. They had no family names worth remembering, no fortune waiting for them, no place among the great houses above, so they created their own. the Mist Crows, 3 forgotten children who decided that being forgotten together was better than being forgotten alone. The third member entered without a sound, Darian Thorn. He always moved like someone who expected danger behind every corner, because once, danger had been behind every corner. "The guards are searching the east bridges," Darian said. Tessa smiled. "Then it is good we are on the west side." "They are learning." Slowly. Darian did not smile. He rarely did. Finn leaned back. "You worry too much, and you don't worry enough. That is why we balance each other." Darian looked at the bag on the table. "What did you take?" Tessa opened it. Inside were several small crystal lantern cores, nothing expensive, nothing rare, but important. Finn looked surprised. "These are from the merchant storage house." Tessa nodded. "Same merchant who doubled the price last winter." Darian crossed his arms. "We said we do not steal from common traders." "We don't." Tessa picked up one of the crystals. "These will go back to the lower streets. People need light more than he needs another ship." That was the first rule of the Mist Crows. Never steal from those who have nothing left to lose. They were thieves. They never pretended otherwise. But even thieves could choose what kind of thieves they wanted to be. Part 2. The Shadow Beneath the Harbour. That night, while Myrhold slept, a different ship entered the harbour. No flags, no lights, no name, only a black symbol painted near the bow. A dark wave. Most people in Myrhold would have looked away, some out of fear, others because they were paid to. Everyone knew the stories. The Black Tide, a name whispered in taverns and dark alleys, a syndicate that officially did not exist, which was exactly why everyone feared it. From a balcony high above the harbour, Lord Varys Morn watched the ship arrive. To the city, he was a respected man, a protector of Myrhold, a merchant lord who funded bridges, repaired streets, and gave speeches about the future. People saw the mask, very few saw what was underneath. A man approached him from behind. "The shipment has arrived, my lord." Varys did not turn around. "And the crystal?" "We believe it is among them." For the first time, Varys reacted. After years of searching, after generations of stories, after a lifetime carrying the name Morn, could it finally be true? "The Dawnshard," he whispered. "The lost treasure of the Silver Warden. The final piece of his family's oldest legend." The man behind him lowered his voice. "There is one problem." Varys looked back. What problem? The harbour records were changed. Someone knew the shipment was coming. Varys looked toward the dark ship below. For the first time that night, his confidence disappeared. "Someone inside the Black Tide knows." The man nodded. "What should we do?" Varys remained silent for a moment. Then his expression became cold. "Find them." "The Dawnshard has been lost once before. I will not allow it to disappear again." The next morning, Myrhold looked exactly the same. Ships entered the harbour, merchants opened their stores, the great bells above the gates announced another day of trade and fortune. But beneath the city, something had changed. The Mist Crows felt it before anyone else did, because when you grow up in the forgotten corners of a city, you learn to notice the things others ignore. A closed door that was always open, a familiar face that suddenly disappeared, a street that became quiet without reason. And that morning, the Mistways were too quiet. Tessa stood on the roof of an old warehouse overlooking the eastern docks. Below her, workers moved crates from the mysterious ship that arrived during the night. But something was wrong. No records. Finn looked through a small telescope made from old lantern parts. No harbour markings, no trading flags, no captain speaking with the dockmaster. He lowered the telescope. That is either the most mysterious merchant ship in history, or, Tessa asked. Finn looked at her. Or it is definitely something we should not get involved with. Tessa smiled. So the second one. Obviously. Behind them, Darian remained silent. Too silent. Tessa noticed. She always noticed. You know something. Darian did not answer. Darian. His eyes remained on the black symbol painted on the ship. The dark wave. We should leave. Finn turned around. What? We should leave. Now. Tessa frowned. Since when do you run away from trouble? Darian looked at her. Since I know what kind of trouble it is. Neither Tessa nor Finn answered. Because in all the years they had known Darian Thorn, they had seen him angry. They had seen him wounded. They had even seen him afraid. But never like this. The Black Tide. Darian finally said the name, quietly, as if the city itself might hear him. Finn looked back toward the ship. I thought they were just stories. That's what they want people to think. Tessa crossed her arms. You know a lot about them. Darian looked away. For a moment it seemed like he wanted to say something important, but he didn't. Enough to know we should stay away. That would have been the smart choice, the safe choice, but the Mist Crows had never survived because they made safe choices. They survived because they knew when someone powerful was hiding something. And powerful people rarely hide things for good reasons. That night, 3 shadows moved across the rooftops of Myrhold, past the sleeping markets, over the old bridges, down toward the forgotten storage houses beneath the harbour walls, the place where unwanted things disappeared and where dangerous things were kept. Finn stopped before a large metal door. No lock. Tessa looked surprised. Finn inspected the strange mechanism. Something worse. What? A lock that thinks it is smarter than me. Tessa smiled. Is it? Finn looked offended. Absolutely not. A few moments later, nothing happened. A few more moments later, still, nothing happened. Darian looked behind them. Finn. I know. Finn. I said I know. A loud click echoed through the tunnel. The door opened. Finn smiled. See? I was just giving the lock a chance to surrender. Inside the warehouse, hundreds of crates filled the darkness. Some contained gold. Others contained rare crystals, objects worth more money than the Mist Crows had ever seen. But Tessa did not move. Finn noticed. You are standing in front of more treasure than we ever dreamed of. I know. And you are not taking anything. No. Finn looked confused. Should I be worried that you are becoming responsible? Tessa ignored him. She was looking at something else. At the end of the room stood a single chest, old, damaged, different from everything around it. It did not look valuable. It looked forgotten. Darian stepped closer and suddenly stopped. What is it? Tessa asked. Darian stared at the symbol carved into the wood, an old ship crest, almost faded away. The Silver Warden. Finn looked up. The lost ship? The one from the old sailor stories? Darian nodded. My father used to tell me those stories. Tessa carefully opened the chest. Inside was no gold, no jewels, no weapon, only a single crystal, clear as glass. But deep inside it, a soft golden light moved like the first sunrise over the sea. The Dawnshard, Finn whispered. For a moment, none of them spoke. Because some treasures do not feel like something you find. They feel like something that was waiting to be found. And far above them, in the highest tower overlooking Myrhold, Lord Varys Morn received a message. The chest was gone. The Dawnshard was gone. The mist crows had stolen from the black tide, and now the black tide would come for them. Part 3. The Legend of the Silver Warden. For the first time in many years, the mist crows were hiding, not from city guards, not from angry merchants, not from people trying to recover stolen coins or missing jewelry. This was different. The black tide was looking for them, and everyone in Myrhold knew one simple truth. When the black tide searched for something, they usually found it. Deep inside the old clock tower, the Dawnshard rested on Finn's work table. The small crystal filled the room with a warm golden light. Not bright, not powerful, just peaceful. Finn had spent hours studying it, measuring it, testing it, trying to understand it. And for the first time in his life, Finn Calder had nothing to say. Tessa looked at him. That might be the most worrying thing that happened today. Finn looked up. What? You are quiet. I can be quiet. Tessa raised an eyebrow. Finn sighed. Fine. I usually choose not to be. A small smile appeared on Darian's face, only for a moment. But Tessa noticed. She always noticed. So, she asked, what is it? Finn looked back at the crystal. I don't know. Tessa frowned. You don't know? No. You repaired a broken harbour lift with a spoon and 3 pieces of wire. 4 pieces. Not the point, Finn. Finn carefully touched the Dawnshard. Every crystal has a pattern, a structure, something that explains how it works. He looked confused. But this one what? It feels like it is not holding energy. It feels like it is holding something else. Nobody spoke, because in Myrhold everyone knew the old stories. Every child had heard them, the story of the Silver Warden. It was one of the greatest ships ever built in Myrhold. Not the fastest, not the largest, but the bravest. Its captain, Elias Morn, believed that the ocean still held wonders nobody had seen. Places no map remembered. Treasures no hand had touched. Stories nobody had told. The Silver Warden was built to chase the horizon. Its sails carried the mark of Myrhold. Its lanterns were said to shine through even the deepest fog. And wherever it travelled, new stories followed. Many called Elias Morn a dreamer, others called him a fool, but every sailor remembered the words he spoke before his final journey. The sea does not belong to those who fear losing the shore. The Silver Warden sailed beyond the distant mist and never returned. At least, not at first. Years later, during a quiet morning much like any other, the people of Myrhold heard the harbour bells ringing. A ship was approaching, slowly and silently, without anyone steering it. It was the Silver Warden, The sails were torn, the wood was damaged, the crew was gone. Captain Elias Morn was gone. The people of Myrhold never repaired it, and they never let it sail again. Instead, the Silver Warden remained in the old harbour, a silent monument of the greatest mystery the sea had ever returned. But inside the ship, they found one thing, a crystal nobody had seen before, the Dawnshard. Some believed it carried the last light the crew had seen. Others believed it guided the ship home. Others said it was only a crystal, and stories made it something more. Eventually, the truth disappeared, and the legend remained. Darian looked at the crystal. Varys Morn does not want money. Tessa turned toward him. You know him. It was not a question. Darian remained silent. Then he nodded. Yes. Finn looked surprised. How? Darian looked toward the window, toward the streets below, toward the life he tried to leave behind. Because before I was a mist crow, I belonged to the black tide. The room became silent. Tessa stared at him. Finn did not move. Belonged? Tessa asked. Darian nodded. They find people nobody looks for. Children from the Mistways. People who disappear without anyone asking questions. He looked down. I was good at it, finding secrets, opening doors, taking things. Tessa's expression changed. Why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to forget. Darian looked at her. Because for the first time in my life, someone looked at me and saw something else. A friend. Finn was the first to speak. Well, this is terrible timing. Both of them looked at him. What? Finn shrugged. I just found out one of my best friends had a mysterious dark past. And now I cannot even dramatically leave because dangerous people are chasing us. Tessa almost smiled, almost. Darian looked away. You should have left me years ago. Tessa stepped closer. No. You don't know everything I did. No, I don't. But I know who came back. Before Darian could answer, the bells outside began to ring. Not the normal bells, not the harbour bells. Warning bells. Finn looked out the window. His face changed. Tessa. Below them, dozens of figures moved through the mistways. Black coats, dark symbols. A wave swallowing the sea, the black tide. They had found them. But the black tide was not the only one walking through the mistways that night. Far below the old bridges, beneath the lanterns and the endless fog, the Druid was listening. He had followed the echo since he arrived in Myrhold, but an echo was not something he could create. It was not something he could force. A story had to choose its own path. The Druid looked toward the old harbour, toward the silent shape of the Silver Warden resting beneath the moonlight. Then he noticed something. An old forgotten passage beneath the harbour walls, a path once used by sailors returning from the docks, a path the city had forgotten. The Druid placed an old lantern at the entrance, then he disappeared into the mist. Moments later, Tessa saw the small light glowing between the stones, a way out. She looked around. Nobody was there, only the sound of the ocean remained. Finn looked confused. Was that always there? Tessa smiled slightly. Maybe. Darian looked into the mist. For a moment, He thought he saw someone watching, but when he looked again, there was only fog. Part 4. The Choice of a Thief. The Mistways of Myrhold had always been a place where people disappeared, a place of shadows, a place of secrets, a place where footsteps vanished beneath the sound of the ocean. But that night was different. That night, the shadows were hunting them. The mist crows ran across the rooftops as the black tide followed below, through old bridges, across forgotten towers, above the sleeping streets of Myrhold. Finn carried the Dawnshard carefully inside his bag. "Just so everyone knows," he shouted while jumping across a rooftop. "This is officially my least favorite treasure we have ever stolen." Tessa looked back. "We have been chased before." Yes, Finn climbed over a wall, by guards, by merchants, once by a very angry baker. Not by a secret criminal organization that everyone is afraid to even talk about. Darian looked behind them. "They are getting closer." Tessa stopped. The great harbour stretched before them. Hundreds of ships rested beneath the moonlight, and beyond them, the Gates of Mirhold stood against the sea. "We cannot keep running." Finn looked at her. "That sounds like something people say before doing something dangerous." Tessa smiled slightly. "You know me too well. That is exactly why I am worried." They moved toward the old harbour, toward the place where the legend of the Silver Warden began, but someone was already waiting. Lord Varys Morn. No guards, no army, just one man standing beneath the lights of Myrhold. Tessa Vale. Varys smiled. The thief who stole from the black tide. Tessa looked at him. Lord Varys Morn. The man who pretends the black tide does not exist. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Varys laughed quietly. "You are clever. People usually mean annoying when they say that. Sometimes both are true." He looked toward Finn's bag. "You have something that belongs to my family." Tessa stepped forward. "Your family lost it." "No." Varys's voice became colder. "My family protected a story everyone else was willing to forget." He looked toward the ocean. "My entire life people told stories about Elias Morn, the brave captain, the fearless explorer, the man who sailed farther than anyone before him. But nobody remembered the person behind the legend. No answers, no explanation, only questions." Varys looked back at her. "A city without memory is only stone and wood." "I wanted to give Myrhold back what it had forgotten." Tessa wanted to answer, but she couldn't, because for the first time, she understood him. Varys Morn had grown up in the highest towers of Myrhold. She had grown up in the streets beneath them. They could not have been more different, and yet, both had spent their lives searching for something they had lost. "You think the Dawnshard will give you your ending?" Varys nodded. "It belongs with me." "No," Tessa said quietly. "It belongs where the story began." For the first time, Varys looked angry. "You know nothing about my family." "No," Tessa answered. "I don't. But I know what happens when people spend their entire life looking backward. They forget everyone standing beside them." The black tide surrounded the harbour. There was nowhere left to run. Darian stepped beside Tessa, then Finn. The mist crows stood together, as they always had. Varys looked at Darian. "You could have been more than this." Darian stayed silent for a moment. Then he answered, I am. That is why I left." The words hit harder than any weapon could, because deep down, Varys knew. Darian had escaped his past, and he never had. Slowly, Tessa took the Dawnshard. The crystal glowed softly in her hands. For a moment, she thought about everything it could give her. Enough gold to leave the Mistways forever. A new life, a new beginning, everything she had dreamed of. Then she looked at Finn, at Darian, at the city behind her, the city that had forgotten them, the city they protected anyway. And she finally understood. Freedom was not having something nobody could take away. Freedom was choosing what you give. Tessa walked past Varys, toward the old docks, toward the restored remains of the Silver Warden, and carefully she placed the Dawnshard back where the legend began. The crystal's light slowly faded, not gone, just resting, like something that had finally come home. For a long moment, Varys Morn said nothing. The treasure he had searched for his entire life was finally in front of him. No guards, no locks, no one stopping him from taking it. But for the first time, he did not see a treasure, he saw a message. "My family spent generations searching for the Dawnshard," Varys said quietly. "We believed Elias Morn brought back a secret from beyond the sea. Something that was meant to be found." He looked at the old ship, at the damaged wood, at the place where his ancestors' journey had ended. But maybe that was never the story. Maybe Elias did not bring the Dawnshard back because he discovered something. Maybe he brought it back because he wanted to leave something behind. For the first time in his life, Varys stopped searching for the ending of Elias Morn's story and started protecting the beginning of a new one. The black tide slowly disappeared from Myrhold, because even the strongest shadows cannot survive forever when someone finally brings them into the light. Years later, people still told stories about the Mist Crows, about 3 thieves from the Mistways, about Tessa Vale, Finn Calder, and Darian Thorn. Some stories said they stole impossible treasures. Some said they became protectors of Myrhold. Most of them were probably not true. Finn was responsible for most of those. But far away from the busy streets, the Druid returned once more to the Gates of Mirhold, and finally, he understood. The echo had never been hidden inside the Dawnshard. It was not created by the Silver Warden or by the treasures lost beneath the waves. It was created by a choice. Many treasures had passed through the Gates of Mirhold. Some were stolen, some were lost, some were never found again. But Myrhold remembered something greater. Not the thief who stole the greatest treasure, but the one who chose to return it. The Druid opened the archive, and another forgotten story found its place among the echoes of Vespera, the echo of Myrhold preserved. End of Chronicle 003.